That's a new one.
All right. My name's Jan.16.
Greg!
All right, yay.
Yeah, I think it's fine. All right. I just want everybody to know I'm not a performance artist. I wrote a story, so I'm just going to share the story with you guys. And it's called Can I Touch Your Hair? Your hair's so rough. How'd you get it like that? Ew, you don't wash it every day? It's so greasy. As an 11-year-old at a predominantly white school, I didn't know how to respond. And quite frankly, I was ashamed of myself. My hair had never been a topic of discussion. It was just my hair, as it always had been. Mom always said cleanliness was next to godliness, so I knew I wasn't dirty. She wouldn't send me to school that way. I was one of 3 black students at a Catholic grade school, and on top of being black, I wasn't even Catholic. Majority of my classmates grew up together, attended the parish, and went to the school since kindergarten. I came along in the 6th grade as a total outcast. My classmates were friendly, but they didn't understand the psychological damage that would follow me throughout my life. I wanted so desperately to fit in, but the melanin in my skin made me stick out. When I told them I had brothers, they asked not if they were in a gang, but which gang they were in.
All
I
right.
had to explain to them that they were actually students at an elite private school and shared classes with some of their brothers. But they still wanted me to teach them gang signs and wanted my approval when they imitated the ones they seen on the internet. After constantly being called gross for not washing my hair every day and being questioned and interrogated about my hair texture designs, I grew to hate my twists and braids. I wanted my hair straight as possible, so I got a relaxer. I wanted clothes like theirs, so I started shopping at shops like Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister. After trying on different sizes and styles, I realized the clothes didn't fit the natural curves of my body. They were not designed for me nor intended for me to wear.
All right.
A few of us took a trip to Abercrombie to shop one afternoon. The sales associate greeted my 2 friends, but looked me up and down without saying a word. I thought nothing of it and just smiled at her. As we walked around the store, I realized she was always right behind me. Everywhere I went, she had clothes to fold or to hang in the area. It didn't even occur to me that she had been following me around the store. I mean, I knew black people were stereotyped to steal, but not me, not in my private school skirt with my 2 white friends. But not even the plaid could conceal my blackness. I wanted nothing to do with my dark skin. I was surrounded by white people, so I was naturally engulfed in whatever it was they were doing. I figured the more I listened to their music, watched their TV shows, and read their magazines, the more I'd be like them. I asked my mom why we weren't Catholic, why we had to be Lutheran, and if there was a way we could convert. I asked if we could move to the county so that my brothers and I could be closer to our schools and realistically in a wider neighborhood. I wanted to forget my blackness. I wanted nothing to do with it. My peers started calling me an Oreo, meaning I was black on the outside but white on the inside, because I wasn't really black. At the time, I took it as a compliment. My parents did everything they could to help the adjustments. They allowed me to have friends over, but some of the girls couldn't come when they found out that I lived in the city. The few that were allowed were surprised that my house looked pretty similar to theirs. Most of them had assumed that all black people lived in poverty. High school wasn't much better. I visited 3 different schools before deciding on the one I thought would fit me best. The school was quite liberal and spoke quite fondly of their so-called diversity. However, they had about 40 non-white students out of 600 girls. The sad part being that they beat out all the other schools. It was a little better than being one of 3, and I felt a little more comfortable seeing girls that looked like me in the hall, but all was not well. One evening, I joined a few friends and went to a college apartment to drink. I sat there and I took shots repeatedly with about 6 other people, all of them were white. I was enjoying myself until the host got drunk and started showing his true self. I just want to say something, he slurred. Any white girl that fucks a black guy is a whore. My friend, a white girl who was dating a black guy at the time, became outraged and started arguing with him. I sat back silently. He got out of his seat, his face turned beet red, and he screamed at her, "Black guys are trash. White girls will treat you better. You're just a slut." I felt uncomfortable and degraded. My brothers had dated white girls, and they were always good to them, regardless of what the girls' parents thought. I didn't say much but to tell my friends that I was ready to leave. I didn't want to argue with him. It was pointless. He then turned to me and said, "I'm blacker than you." He went on and on about all the black places that he's been and the black things that he's done, and he didn't forget to mention all the black friends that he had. We left. My whole mood shifted that night. I felt attacked, disrespected, and just hurt. I was embarrassed and uncomfortable to be black in that moment, but I realized situations as such would set me apart from my friends. Sure, they thought he was being rude, but they didn't really care. They'd laugh about it later. The incident wouldn't stick with them for the rest of their lives. I didn't want to talk about it with my friends, and I never brought it up to my parents. After being around white people nearly my whole life, racism was just another aspect of it. And at times I thought it was okay. I tried to understand it, to justify it, just to avoid confrontation. I quickly learned whose parents didn't care for black people, so I knew where I wasn't welcome. I never talked about race with my friends either. I didn't want to destroy friendships I fought so hard to build. They liked fucking black guys, but they didn't care about institutionalized racism and systematic oppression. I wasn't sure if they didn't care what I went through on a day-to-day basis, or if they just truly didn't know. But it wasn't up to me to educate them and to fix racism. I had not caused it, I was merely a victim. It wasn't until I grew into myself when I realized I'd be judged, categorized, and stereotyped by the color of my skin. After high school, people no longer knew me as the private school girl. As a private school girl with a nice home, I was just another nigga. I started to open my eyes to issues I'd previously been blinded to. Like the time my two white friends got into a confrontation with the cops. After drinking all day, they had been publicly intoxicated, walking down the side of the road in Columbia, Missouri. When the cops were called, one of the girls started kicking the officer, yelling and screaming at him, swearing at him uncontrollably. She didn't even get a citation. There's a trip to the hospital to make sure she didn't have alcohol poisoning. Had that had been me and my brother in that exact same situation, I'd be here telling a whole different story, or I wouldn't be here at all. College was a time of self-evaluation and change. I educated myself on issues within the black community, my culture, and my history. I sat down with my grandparents to learn their stories. I grew tired of arguing with people over why they couldn't say nigga and why it was unacceptable to appropriate black culture. I was drained. So I stopped hanging out with people who were completely oblivious to their white privilege and unaware of the everyday issues that I faced. For once in my life, I feel beautiful and comfortable in my melody.
Love you, Jay!
To fit in with white people or impress them, I am unapologetically black and proud. Thank you. Our next performance is going to be from Ashley, so I'd like to welcome her.